Hi, this is Charles Wiley with Columbia Theological Seminary, and today with me is Dr. Leanne Van Dyke, the president of Columbia Theological Seminary, who's apparently sitting in her office doing well.
Hi, Charles.
I was thinking the other day that back in March, it seemed like we were getting a new directive from the President's Council every day as y'all were tearing up what you thought about the day before, to think again about what challenges were coming. How have you navigated all the challenges that Columbia is facing?
Those days in mid-March can seem to continue. I remember in mid-March we first thought, okay, we're gonna have a staggered work arrangement whereby half of the people come in one day and the other half another day, and like 48 hours later we realized we have to shut the campus down and figure out how to fulfill our mission in dramatically new ways. And those questions still occupy my attention and the attention of my colleagues in leadership every single day. So we still don't quite haven't really built this plane while we're flying it.
So before you were president, you were a theologian.
Yes.
How do you reflect theologically and biblically on what the church is facing?
I find myself coming down to sort of solid basics, real basics, such as God is the creator of the world, and God has a plan for the flourishing of creation, which includes us. That's a theological statement that is sort of foundational to the way I think.
Uh-huh.
Another foundational statement is God cares for us and loves us and is present with us. So I look to the Psalms quite frequently in my own reading and reflection and devotion these days. And Psalm 46 is a favorite psalm of lots and lots of people. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. And it's the word present that's popped out at me lately.
Right.
That this is daily, this is now that God is present and helpful. So those are the sort of foundational theological statements that I really rest on.
So Columbia's been around a long time. We're looking at its 200th anniversary coming up soon. How is Columbia being faithful to its mission in this complicated time?
I'm impressed that in many respects, we are more laser focused on our mission now than ever before. I joke with some of my colleagues that if Dr. Erskine Clark, who just completed a brand new history of Columbia Seminary, were to add a new chapter, it would be about this. It would be about how we are still focused on our mission in these really unusual and disquieting times. And the mission is preparing leaders for the sake of the church and the world, and we're still doing that.
One of the phrases that became famous a few years ago, at least to me, was never let a good crisis go to waste. So how are we not letting this crisis go to waste?
It's a way for us to refocus and recommit to our core mission, and how to do that potentially in some innovative ways. I read a really interesting article that Brennan Breed pointed out to me the other day that said, okay, innovation is good, but let's not throw out what is traditional and time-tested just for the sake of innovation. So that's a good reminder that the balance of preserving what has stood the test of time and stretching into new ideas, that's what we're trying to do, to really keep our eye on the horizon of all the ideas.
One of those famous change theorists, I forget which one, said that when we think about all the changes you have to do to adapt, we often think of the changes as the big deal, but often what you keep is the most important.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's
yeah,
exactly right. And fortunately, we have an awful lot of things that we want to keep in how we organize our life together. We hope we can organize our life together back in person in the future. but also just the values that drive our education and our support of pastors and congregations and ministry settings. That's all at the core of what we do. We're going to keep it.
I've been really impressed with the way Columbia graduates have been responding to the ministry challenges they're dealing with in congregations, in chaplaincy settings, and all kinds of places. Have you seen any of those that strike you as particularly interesting?
You know, there's kind of an inside joke on campus that we talk about the word resilience a lot, and students kind of roll their eyes a little bit, and faculty and staff do as well. But we got an email from a graduate a couple of weeks ago that said, you know what, this resilience thing, it's really important. And I learned it at Columbia Seminary, and it's helping me not only survive, but thrive in my ministry in this really strange time. So I'm kind of pleased that our graduates, people out there in ministry, see how they were kind of formed here, and it helps them be faithful in their callings.
I used to say a lot in my former life that we have a hard time predicting what ministry will look like in 10 or 15 years. Yeah. And what we have to do is be able to prepare church leaders who can navigate those changes more so than trying to train them in a particular style of ministry that we know will be around.
Yes, it's the capacities, right? The virtues, the instincts, the longings. I mean, we also want to prepare students to desire the right things, to desire the flourishing of the church for the sake of the world. So it's hard to pin down, but I think Columbia, just because of who we are as a community, is aimed at something really important. And our graduates are now going, yep, that's what we got at Columbia, and it's good.
So one of the things you're tasked with is thinking about the future. Mm-hmm. Always, but particularly in this time, because we all know that no matter what September or May looks like, it won't look like what last September looked like. Right. What are you thinking about as far as how Columbia can be faithful to its mission moving forward?
It's a hard question to answer, and it's actually kind of a frustrating question right now, because we are constantly kind of creating scenarios and scoping out contingencies, and then 2 days later we rip it up. It's like, oh, that's not going to happen. And so then we start from scratch, and we look really carefully at our peers, because there's mutual wisdom out there, not only in higher education in general, but theological education. So we're talking to our peer schools and tapping their wisdom. So I'm convinced that our mission remains, and our caritas has remained, the particular virtues and values and gifts and character that we have as a community, but the strategies and the policies and the schedulings might be quite different. And we are trying to be prudent and bold, kind of walk both of those boundaries.
So what strength of Columbia gives you the most hope looking forward?
I have been delighted, and I would love to tell stories about how our faculty turned on a dime in mid-March and started teaching online. And they did that with their full heart. It wasn't pedestrian. It was genuinely formational and committed. I'm very proud of the way our faculty and the students responded to this challenge. One of my faculty colleagues wrote me an email this morning saying, we also made mistakes. We did some crazy things. And one of them said, for instance, I did an 80-minute lecture that I then uploaded into my course site. She said, I'm never doing that again. And so we got some things to learn too, but I'm really proud of how the faculty did everything with their whole heart.
Yeah, I got the sense from talking to different faculty members that they were really focused on serving their students,
Absolutely.
on teaching them well, on making sure that whatever happened, that they were well served as they could possibly be during this time.
And the students felt it. We did a survey of the students just to kind of take their temperature a couple of days ago. The end of the semester has come, so they're now in exam week, actually, as you and I are talking.
Right.
Um, and we asked the students, how did it go? And very significant appreciation. Some disappointment. They would have preferred to be together, but just real gratitude for the way that we committed to them.
Well, that sounds really good. I am glad to talk with you. I know that the Columbia students and alums and supporters are happy to hear from you. And I'm sure you're going to hear a lot from them after they listen to you talk about it.
I would really welcome that. And I appreciate talking with you, Charles.
Have a great day, and we will see you soon, I hope.